perform a dance to a poem that I wrote, and I'm going to give you a little background on that. When the Creativity Center was finally built, 3 years after we broke ground and Paul's beautiful garden was destroyed, I was so grateful that I felt an urge to write a poem, kind of a christening of creativity from deep within myself. At this stage of Base Camp 7, which I'm on in my life journey, the best thing for me is that I have more perspective. I can see more clearly, I can see how all the kind of seemingly confused pieces of my life actually formed a picture and led the way to each next chapter. Well, I had achieved many major goals. I had an abundance of experiences, opportunities, creative and artistic projects, adventures. Also, many large challenges and unexpected losses. I have written in journals since I was about 10. I always processed my life from the earliest time that I could write through journaling. And I also wrote poems through most of my life, and until I gave a book of my poems to Paul, who didn't like my poems. But that's okay, because you'll see he's redeemed himself. This poem, when I really thought about my life and what it meant to me and what I had learned and what I really felt was important that I might share with others, came through me really easily. It was almost like it had been written inside of me all this time. There had been somebody writing all this, and it just flew out in through my fingers. And it does speak of a dark period in my life and a very difficult struggle that I had to get through that period. But it also validates the power of mind and spirit working together to find healing, meaning, and balance after tragedy. It's about regaining trust in the process of my life. So I wrote this poem, Ode to the Creativity Center, and I shared it with my friend and who also became my yoga student and colleague, Sharon Compton. Many of you know her. She was on the Music Center roster of artists. And she got my poem right away. And when I asked her if she would collaborate with her artwork, because I had envisioned projections over the top of me as I was performing this, she was excited. And so we worked weekly for about 3 months, and finally we were really pleased with how it came together. That's what I'm going to share with you. At this point, I had the poem, I had choreographed the dance, I had Sharon, she was designing and creating and drawing pictures, many of them on her iPad, by the way, with her projects, the apps that you can use to create artwork. And I approached Paul and I said, I don't have any music. Would you consider writing a score for this piece, knowing that this is nothing that interests him, and it's not even his skill level. And I hate to say it, but it's really not his strength usually either to write this kind of music. But he delighted me by saying that he would give it a shot. So when I heard the score and saw how it added another dimension of expression, I was amazed and I was deeply moved because he really got my poem. He had not gotten any of those other poems. And so he is totally redeemed. So pay attention to the score. There's actually a lot in this dance. You're going to have to listen to the words, try and see me through the projections, and enjoy the artwork and listen to Paul's music. All right, so working together, Paul, Sharon, and I made a rehearsal recording about 1.5 years ago. And soon after, Sharon Compton would be fighting lung cancer, as well as trying to recover from hip surgery. And unfortunately, she lost her battle a few months ago. And we showed the rehearsal tape with the help of Maddie on a big screen at her memorial. Beth was also there, Beth Peterson. And so I would like to dedicate this performance to her spirit, wherever it is, And I'm just so happy that we seized that moment to collaborate. Because honestly, those moments can fly away and never appear again. There's also one other person I want to acknowledge, and that's Beth Peterson. Because we worked together, she invited me to do a project with a high school on the poem from the Bible, Ecclesiastes. And I realized that has really been my anchor work throughout my life. I keep returning to it. And she introduced me to a wonderful, extraordinary artist named John Swanson. I have 2 of his works up on the wall. Later you can look. The one on that side is a replica of his painting of Ecclesiastes, and it shows all the pieces. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the poem, "To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven or the sun," whichever you prefer. So I was inspired by the painting, by the text, by working with Beth and getting her tape puppets. I was inspired by Paul, but I'm also, every person in this room has had a major impact on my life. And if you didn't directly, well then you're with someone that directly did. And I accept you into my life. So, yeah.
Susan had talked to me about this piece that she had been working on, and there was a poem, and there was a dance, and there were visuals. And as she was showing me pieces of it, I said, you know, I think your community would really love to experience this. And it's not because I have such amazing vision that I saw this, but because I know that she's touched and nurtured so many people in this room. And she's been a huge mentor in my life and devoted so much energy in making sure that my artistic soul was nurtured and taken care of. And I really think that this is what the Creativity Center is and why she and Paul created this, is to just make sure we're always taking care of that inside of us. And I thought, you know, there's so many people who love you and Paul who would really love to experience this. So thank you for sharing this. And thank you, Paul, who's so wildly creative and talented. It's just always such a treat, so thank you. There's just a couple of things. I should have mentioned this earlier, but just please remember to make sure your cell phones or devices are off and are on silent. And of course, watch your legs, because she's going to be dancing around. And is the projector ready? All right, here we go. Thank you.
Susan's Ode to the Creativity Space. To everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap that which has been planted, a time to build up, a time to tear down, a time to build up again and again and again. All these things require space. My space, your space, our shared spaces. Space. I need a space. You're in my space. I need my space. My space defines me. Your space defines you. I can share my space. Are you willing to share yours? Space and time are closing in on me. The space contracts, the time ticks faster. Tick, tock, separate. Tick, tock, together. Close, apart, isolated, crowded. Tick, tock, tick. Layers of space, layers of thought, spaces between my thoughts, thoughts in my spaces, floating, collecting, connecting, drifting thoughts, sometimes illuminating. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Really? There's a tunnel? Crawling on my knees, it seems dark inside my space today. Is it night? Is it day? Lights flicker outside the darkness. Lights blinking out like an invisible switch is shorted. Is my own breath shorting? Sobs drowning out the light? Where is the light? Where's it gone? Am I in a tunnel? Can it be lit? It's very, very dark down here as I dig myself into the comforting earth. The space is darker still. Dig yourself into a deep hole. Become a blind creature, not needing light nor eyes to see. Listen. Dig yourself into a hole deeper. Bring a ladder. Decorate the walls of your blackness. Turn the darkness inside out, like the inside of a deep pocket. Hang onto the edges of the torn cloth. But keep your eyes closed. You can feel the light moving across your closed lids. Open them like shades. Let in a sliver of light, a tear in the darkness. The space expands. Drill some holes, different sizes, into the sides, top, and bottom of your dark hole. Put your feet against the walls and push, spilling your dirt into the other dark spaces. Climb the ladder. Climb. Find the switch for the light. Look up through the glass ceiling. See the other side of darkness. Suspended in space, I'm grounded. A thin thread of light to hang onto. The moon shines dimly through the wallpaper on the edges of my hole. Peel back the layers. Layers and more layers. What a mess! Now my space is littered with remnants of memories and pain. Dried scales drop from my eyelids, layer upon layer, crushing my spirit. Keep scratching through the layers. Clean out the space. Bend the space. Find the portal back to your life. Trust the tunnel's path. It leads somewhere. A wrinkle in space. Iron it out with the steel of courage. Smooth the bumps in the empty spaces. Fill the valleys with light. The cool, calming light of the moon shines through clouds on a dark night. Covered with berries and leaves, tuck yourself in. Rest a while. Dream of a space filled with possibilities and positive energy. Fold the two corners of your heart together. Move from the shadows into the light. Positive space needs negative space to define it. Walk through the valley formed by wrinkles. Wrinkles in time move you through space. Create a new space. Fill it with friends, ideas, dances, from the truest part of yourself. Make a road out of air. Invite others to walk with you. Love each other and share your spaces. Create, love, laugh, celebrate. For life has a beginning and an ending. The middle is empty space. Remember, to everything there is a season.
So thank you for having the courage to do